Good morning. Today is Sunday, October 15th, 2023. Near the end of this week's Torah portion, the Parsha of Noach, is a narrative that is so cryptic, so mysterious, it seems to defy comprehension. The Torah tells us, Vayihi kol haaretz safa echas udvarim achadim. And it was that all the people in the land spoke one language with uniform words. Now, we know this is the opening of this passage that's going to lead to the Migdal Bavel, the Tower of Babel, that's going to be a terrible, terrible thing that God is going to be upset with and punish these people. But, doesn't that sound great? Doesn't that sound wonderful? Everyone is speaking the same language. Everyone can understand each other. Wow. Especially here in Quebec. Can you imagine what a miracle it would be if everyone would speak the same language and everyone would get along, everyone would be able to speak the same way? So what's wrong with that? Why is that the opening to what we know in a few verses is going to be a very, very bad thing? Vayomru, and they said to each other, Havna nivda lanu ira migdal, let us build a city and a tower, v'rosha bashamayim, and the top of it should reach heaven. Okay, so you want to build a tall tower? There are tall towers today. There are very tall towers today. Doesn't seem to be any prohibition against building a tall tower. But God says, Havanerda v'navla sham sfasam. I'm going down and I'm going to confuse their language, their speech. Asher lo yishmu ish sfas reyehu, so that one person will not understand what the other is saying. Vayifetz Hashem osa misham al pnei kol haaretz, vayachdu livnos ha'ir, and God scattered them over the land, and they stopped building this city. Al kein kra shama Bavel, therefore it was called Bavel, kisham balal Hashem, mix up, confuse, sfas kol ha'am, the language of all peoples, the language of the people in the earth. God was angry, and God punished them, but why? What did they do wrong? And doesn't it seem that God's response would just make society worse? Again, especially we here in Quebec, we see the problems that come from people speaking different languages and not understanding each other and not wanting to understand each other sometimes. Wouldn't it be great if everyone was unified in this way? What did they do wrong? I have shared with you many answers to this question. It's still hard to grasp. It's almost as if the commentators who offer answers, each one offers an approach that simply reflects their own historical period, their own personal experiences. I've shared a number of these approaches with you, but it's still very, very hard to grasp. So let's focus for a moment on just one detail. Perhaps it's a minor detail in the context of the story, but it's a detail that has an extremely important message for us, especially today. Okay, so the people are all speaking one language. They start to build this city and this tower. I left out a verse. Vayered Hashem lir'os es ha'ir v'es ha'migdal asher banu b'nei Adam. God descended to see the city and the tower that they were building. And only after God descended and saw the tower that they were building did God decide, for whatever reason, and we're leaving this aside for now, that this was bad and God had to interrupt this. The theological question is obvious. What do you mean God had to descend? God is everywhere. God knows everything. You can't hide something from God. There's no such thing as God is above the clouds and he can't see what's going on below the clouds. I mean, that's foolish. Why in the world would the Torah say that God had to descend to see what was happening before deciding what to do? It makes absolutely no sense. Rashi provides the famous answer. Ba l'lamed l'dayonim. This comes to teach a lesson to judges. Shelo yarshiu hanidon, that they should not convict the defendant ad sheyiru v'yavinu, until they see with their own eyes and they understand. They see the witnesses, they see the defendant, they have to see it and they have to understand it. They can't just pass judgment summarily. And our sages tell us that this is not just a rule in court. Our sages tell us that this comes to teach that every person, this is a law, a rule for every single person. A person should not come to a conclusion about others or say anything about anyone else unless you have seen firsthand what happened. And you understand precisely why they did it. Someone says to you, so-and-so made a remark about you. You're not allowed to believe that until you verify it and until you understand what the context is. Because so often the context is different. So often the reports that we get are inaccurate. Now here's the point. That doesn't apply to God, obviously. God is not getting false reports. God knows what is correct, what is accurate. But God is writing this in the Torah. I have to descend to see for myself in order for every one of us to learn this lesson. Don't rush to judgment. Make sure you see it for yourself. Make sure you understand the context before you come to a conclusion about something. But here's the issue. The way that it's written in the Torah leaves an opening for someone to have a terrible misunderstanding about God. Someone who does not know, let's say, the Rambam's Yud Gimel Ikrim, the 13 principles of faith, that we know with a certainty that God is omniscient. Reading this without any commentary, a person might think God is, like, God forbid, like the Greek gods, you could fool them. They don't always see. They make mistakes. God forbid. But that's what it looks like. If the words say God has to descend, it looks like it's saying that God is not omniscient, is not all-powerful, is not all-knowing, does not have perfect knowledge. But what Rashi and the Medrash are telling us is that God decided it was worthwhile to write something that could be misunderstood. But it's not minor. It would be a big, big misunderstanding. It would be a misunderstanding about the essence of our faith, but it's worthwhile to do that in order to teach a lesson to us that we should learn not to act like that, that we should learn never to come to conclusions without first seeing and understanding. So again, let me just emphasize, God does not write these words for God. The words don't have to be written for God. God knows. But God writes it in a way that it will be a lesson for us, even though there is a risk that it will be misunderstood, that it could be taken as an excuse or a rationalization to deny a fundamental principle of God's existence. I saw something from a woman named Heather Thompson Day. She's a teacher. And she told the following story. She said, early in my career, I had a student come late to class. And the student said, sorry I was late. My mom died this morning. I didn't know where to go, so I came here. And this teacher writes, it changed how I teach forever. That's when I decided to treat every single student as if I had no idea what they are going through. That is such a powerful lesson because it is the truth. We have no idea what the next person is going through. Some people are less able to hide what is going on inside of them. Some people are more able to hide it. But we have no idea. This is always true, especially now. People are going through things that we cannot imagine. And maybe they will say something, and maybe they will do something. Maybe if we didn't know the context, we would think it's inappropriate. But we do not know the context. Because we never know what is going on inside someone else. So yes, of course, if it affects us directly, yes, we should look into it. We should verify. Perhaps we should ask and clarify if that is appropriate to the situation. But don't come to a judgment until you've done that. People's emotions are so high now. And I want to add specifically for now, this is one of the points that I made yesterday at the ADATH. Please, please, do not follow the news in Israel full time. It will make you crazy. And it will not help. There are many other things that you can do. We've discussed some of them. I discussed others of them in shul yesterday. There are many things that every one of us can do that are helpful. Following the news all day is not one of them. Follow the headlines. Stay abreast of the main stories. And I am begging you, begging you, stay off of social media. The videos that are being shown, first of all, the problem is many of them are false. They are manipulated. They are intended to make you crazy. And so when you keep watching them obsessively and you will become crazy and hysterical, that is what they're trying to do. And even the ones that are true, if you are obsessively watching them, it will make you crazy. It does not help Israel. Limit your time on the news. Limit your time, especially on social media, especially videos. There are many important things, much more important things that we can do to help ourselves, to help Israel, our brothers and sisters in Israel. But that's part of this issue. Because so much of the news and so much of social media is superficial. It's lacking context. Or it's outright false. And so before we accept something, we have to look into it. Does it come from a verified source? Has it been authenticated in a verified way? We should never share information that we got from some unknown source, because that is exactly violating what this is talking about. Don't come to a judgment unless you have verified, unless you've looked into it and you know the facts and you know the context. And it's important in every area of life, especially today. Especially now. Be like God. Don't rush to judge. My friends, we face difficult days ahead in Israel and around the world. And we face it with faith in God. We face it with determination. We face it with confidence. And we face it with prayer. Join me in the Mishaberach for the Israel Defense Force, the prayer for the Israel Defense Force. Mishaberach Avosenu Avram Yitzchak v'Yakov, Hu Yivarech es Chayolei Tzva HaGanal Yisrael. May God, who blessed our ancestors Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, bless the members of the Israel Defense Force. Ha'omdim al mishmar artzeinu v'arei Eloheinu, who stand guard over our land and the cities of God. Migvul halvanon vad midbar Mitzrayim, from the border of Lebanon to the desert of Egypt. Menayam agadol alavo ha'arava, from the Mediterranean Sea to the approach of the Arava. Bayabasha, ba'avir, ubayom, on land, in air, and on sea. Yitain Hashem elo esayvenu hakamim aleinu nikafim lifnehem. May God cause the enemies who rise up against us to be struck down before them. HaKadosh Baruch Hu yishmor v'yatzil es chayaleinu mikol tzara v'tzuka u'mikol nega u'machala. May God protect and deliver our fighting men and women from every trouble and distress and from every affliction and injury. V'yishlach bracha v'atzlacha b'chol ma'aseh yadeim. And may God send blessing and success in their every endeavor. Yad ber son'enu tachtehem, may He lead our enemies under their sway. V'yatreim b'cheser Yeshua v'ateres nitzachon, and crown them with deliverance and victory. V'kuyem behem hakasav, and may it be fulfilled in them the verse, Ki Hashem Elokechem ha'olech imachem, for it is God, your God, who goes with you. Lihilachem lachem im oivechem lahoshia eschem, to battle for you against your enemies, to deliver you. V'nomar, Amen. My friends, I wish you a good day, a good week. May Hashem protect the men and women who are risking their lives on behalf of the Jewish people, on behalf of the land of Israel, on behalf of the state of Israel. Am Yisrael Chai, our people Israel, is an eternal people. And I look forward to seeing you soon in person.